My name is Victoria Chin. I'm 34 years old, and exactly 72 hours after my parents chose to attend my brother's high school baseball game instead of walking me down the aisle at my wedding. They showed up unannounced at my honeymoon suite with tears streaming down their faces, begging me to explain why the governor of California had been my guest of honor. But before I get to that moment, the one where everything they thought they knew about their ordinary daughter shattered like cheap glass, let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. It came at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, 3 weeks before my wedding date. I was reviewing the final seating chart with my fiancé Marcus when my phone lit up with Mom's contact photo. "Sweetheart," she began, her voice carrying that particular apologetic tone I'd learned to recognize over 3 decades. "Your father and I need to talk to you about something important regarding the wedding." I felt my stomach clench immediately. Marcus squeezed my hand gently, already sensing trouble. "What is it, Mom?" "Well, honey, it's just that, Tyler has his championship game that same Saturday. The scouts will be there, Victoria. This could determine his entire future, his college scholarship opportunities. And you know how much this means to him, to all of us, really." The pause that followed was deafening. I stared at the wedding invitation on my desk, cream cardstock with elegant gold lettering. 200 of them sent out months ago. "Mom, are you saying what I think you're saying? We were hoping you might consider moving the date just by a week or 2. I know it's last minute, but Tyler's coach only just confirmed the championship schedule, and—" "Mom." I cut her off, my voice sharper than I'd intended. "I'm getting married in 3 weeks. The venue is booked, the caterer is paid, guests have made travel arrangements. You're asking me to reschedule my wedding for a high school baseball game. It's not just any game, Victoria. This is the state championship. Tyler has worked so hard for this, and he needs our support. You understand, don't you? You've always been the understanding one, the flexible one." There it was, the label I'd worn like an ill-fitting coat my entire life. The understanding one, the one who didn't make waves, who adjusted her needs to accommodate everyone else's priorities. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're viewing from in the comment section below, and hit subscribe if you've ever been the child whose achievements were constantly overshadowed by a sibling's sports career. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this story ends. I didn't reschedule. I told my mother firmly that the wedding would proceed as planned, and they would have to make their choice. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for what felt like an eternity before she said quietly, "I see. Well, we'll have to think about what's best for the family." 2 days later, Dad called. "Your mother told me about your conversation," he said, his tone measured and careful. "Victoria, you have to understand our position here. Tyler is 17. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. You're 34. You and Marcus have your whole lives ahead of you. Surely you can see why this game takes precedence." "Takes precedence over your daughter's wedding?" I asked, my voice hollow. "That's really what you're saying?" "Don't be dramatic. We're talking about moving it by 2 weeks at most. You're being unreasonable." I hung up without responding. Marcus found me standing at the window, staring out at the San Francisco skyline, tears running silently down my face. "They're not coming, are they?" he asked gently. "No," I whispered. "They're not." To really understand why this moment gutted me so completely, why it felt like the final confirmation of something I'd suspected my entire life, you'd have to go back 27 years to when Tyler was born. I was 7 years old, already independent and quiet, already learning to take care of myself because Mom was exhausted from the difficult pregnancy and Dad was working overtime to pay the medical bills. I remember the day they brought Tyler home from the hospital. Mom's sister, Aunt Linda, was staying with us, and she pulled me aside in the kitchen. "You're going to be such a good big sister," she said, smoothing my hair. "You're going to help Mommy and Daddy take care of the baby, right?" I nodded solemnly, not understanding that I was being handed a role I would never be allowed to put down. From that day forward, I became the helper, the responsible one, the child who didn't need attention because I was so remarkably self-sufficient. Tyler, meanwhile, became the center of their universe, the miracle baby who'd nearly been lost, the son who would carry on the family name, the golden child who could do no wrong. The pattern established itself early. When I won the 5th grade science fair with my project on solar energy, Mom missed the award ceremony because Tyler had a doctor's appointment for an ear infection. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart," she told me that night, distracted, Tyler fussing in her arms. "You're such a smart girl. You don't need me there to know how special you are, do you?" I learned to say no, I didn't need her there. I learned to smile and nod and pretend it didn't hurt. When I made the honor roll every single semester throughout middle school, Dad would glance at my report card and say, "That's great, Vicky. Hey, did you see Tyler hit 2 home runs at his Little League game last weekend? Kid's got a real arm on him." The report card would be stuck on the refrigerator for a day or 2 before being replaced by Tyler's latest team photo or tournament bracket. By high school, I'd perfected the art of needing nothing from them. I got myself up for school, made my own breakfast, did my own homework, applied to colleges without their help. They were always at Tyler's games, sitting in the bleachers with custom t-shirts that said Tyler's mom, and Tyler's dad screaming themselves hoarse. My high school graduation fell on the same day as one of Tyler's travel team tournaments. They went to the tournament. My grandmother came to my graduation, took photos, and tried to hide her disappointment in her own daughter. "They'll regret this someday," Grandma whispered to me as we posed together, my diploma in hand, "when they finally realize what they've missed." I didn't believe her then. I thought perhaps I simply wasn't the kind of daughter who warranted that level of attention. Maybe I was too quiet, too bookish, too independent. Maybe if I'd been more like Tyler, charismatic and athletic and effortlessly charming, they would have shown up for me too. College was my escape. I went to Berkeley on a full academic scholarship that my parents barely acknowledged, too busy helping Tyler prepare for his sophomore baseball season. I threw myself into political science, discovered I had a talent for strategy and negotiation, for seeing patterns and building consensus. Professor Ellen Martinez became my mentor, the first person who seemed to genuinely see my potential. "You have a gift, Victoria," she told me during office hours one afternoon in my junior year. "You understand how systems work, how to navigate power structures. Have you considered public service?" I had not. I'd been so focused on simply surviving, on building a life independent of my family's attention or approval, that I hadn't thought about what I actually wanted to achieve. Professor Martinez connected me with an internship in the state legislature, which led to a position as a legislative aide after graduation, which eventually led to my current role as senior policy director for a coalition of environmental organizations. My work was meaningful, but behind the scenes, I helped draft legislation, built relationships with lawmakers, negotiated compromises between competing interests. I was good at it, really good, but it wasn't the kind of career that generated headlines or impressed people at family gatherings. When relatives asked what I did, their eyes would glaze over before I finished explaining. Tyler, meanwhile, had gotten his baseball scholarship to UCLA, just as my parents had hoped. He was moderately successful, good enough to play all 4 years, not quite good enough for the major leagues. After graduation, he came back home, got a job coaching at his old high school, and lived in my parents' basement. He was 27 now, still the golden child, still the center of their world. I met Marcus 4 years ago at a policy conference in Sacramento. He was a civil rights attorney, brilliant and kind, with a quiet confidence that drew me in immediately. He was the first person I'd ever dated who didn't make me feel like I had to shrink myself to fit into his life. Instead, he celebrated my work, encouraged my ambitions, saw me in a way my family never had. When he proposed on a hiking trail overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, I cried not just from happiness but from relief. I was building a life, a family of my own choosing, with someone who valued me exactly as I was. Planning the wedding had been bittersweet. I tried to include my parents, sending them vendor options and asking for their input, but their responses were always distracted and delayed. Meanwhile, every conversation somehow circled back to Tyler, his coaching success, his new girlfriend, his plans to try out for a semi-pro team. "Your mother's just busy," Aunt Linda told me gently when I confided my frustration. She doesn't mean to be dismissive, but she did mean it. Maybe not consciously, but through 3 decades of consistent choices, she'd made her priorities crystal clear. Tyler came first. He always had. He always would. The week before the wedding, with no word from my parents about whether they'd actually attend, I made a decision. If they were going to choose Tyler's game over my wedding, I would make sure my special day was everything I wanted it to be, with or without them. I called in every favor I had, reached out to colleagues and contacts I'd worked with over the years, and started making some very specific arrangements. Marcus noticed immediately. "What are you planning?" he asked, watching me type emails late into the night. "Insurance," I told him. "Making sure that no matter what happens, our wedding will be memorable." He didn't push for details, trusting me the way he always did. That trust meant everything. 5 days before the wedding, Mom called again. "Victoria, we've made our decision. We're going to Tyler's game. You're an adult. You understand how important this is for his future. You'll have plenty of other celebrations. This is Tyler's one shot." The words landed like physical blows, even though I'd been expecting them. "I see," I said quietly. "Thank you for letting me know. You're not upset, are you? You said you understood." "I never said I understood, Mom. I said I heard you. There's a difference." "Victoria, don't be like this. We raised you to be bigger than petty jealousy." "Petty jealousy?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Is that what you think this is? Well, what else would you call it? Getting upset because we can't attend one event." "My wedding, Mom. It's not one event. It's my wedding. But you're right about one thing. I am bigger than this. I'm bigger than spending my wedding day wondering why I was never enough for you. Enjoy Tyler's game." I hung up before she could respond and blocked their numbers. Marcus held me while I sobbed. 3 decades of overlooked achievements and swallowed disappointments finally pouring out. "They don't deserve you," he whispered into my hair. "They never did." The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Typical San Francisco perfection. The venue, a restored Victorian mansion in Pacific Heights, was decorated exactly as I'd imagined. White roses and eucalyptus, soft candlelight, elegant simplicity. Our 200 guests began arriving at 2 p.m., well-dressed and smiling. Aunt Linda walked me down the aisle, her eyes shining with tears. "Your grandmother would be so proud," she whispered before handing me to Marcus. "I'm so proud." The ceremony was beautiful, intimate despite the crowd. Marcus and I had written our own vows, and when he promised to always see me, to always make me a priority, my voice broke on my response. The guests applauded warmly as we kissed, and we turned to walk back down the aisle as husband and wife. That's when I saw the commotion at the back of the venue. My parents had arrived after all, still wearing their Tyler's mom and Tyler's dad t-shirts under hastily thrown-on jackets, looking frantic and out of place. Mom's face was blotchy with tears. Dad looked stricken. They'd clearly rushed here straight from Tyler's game, probably hoping to slip in for the reception and pretend they'd been supportive all along. But they were too late for the ceremony, and as they pushed through the crowd trying to reach me, they suddenly froze. The entire room had turned to look at the man approaching me with a wide smile. Governor Robertson of California, my second cousin on my father's side, a connection my parents had somehow never bothered to learn about because they'd never asked detailed questions about my life or my work. "Victoria." Governor Chen embraced me warmly. "What a beautiful ceremony. I'm so honored you included me." Marcus shook his hand respectfully. "Governor Chen, thank you so much for coming. It means the world to Victoria. Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss it. After all the work Victoria's done on our environmental legislation, getting those bills through committee, she's one of the most effective policy minds in Sacramento. We're lucky to have her. I watched my parents' faces cycle through confusion, shock, and dawning realization. They'd had no idea that I'd been working directly with the governor's office for the past 2 years, that my name was on legislation that had made state and national news, that I'd built a career and a reputation completely independent of their awareness or support. Victoria, Mom started, pushing forward. We didn't know. Excuse me, I said calmly, turning away from her. Governor Chin, I'd like you to meet my Aunt Linda, who walked me down the aisle today. I spent the rest of the reception deliberately avoiding my parents, introducing Marcus to the California Attorney General, 3 state senators, the mayor of San Francisco, and a handful of federal representatives I'd worked with on environmental policy. Each introduction drove home the same point. While they'd been focused exclusively on Tyler's small-town baseball career, I'd quietly built a network of influence that spanned the state. Senator Patricia Moore pulled me aside during dinner. Your parents look shell-shocked, she observed. I take it they didn't know about your work. They never asked, I replied simply. She squeezed my hand. They're lost, truly. You're doing incredible work, Victoria. Don't let anyone make you feel small. I didn't. For the first time in my life, I felt exactly the right size. The reception ended at midnight with Marcus and me driving off to our honeymoon suite at the Fairmont. Rose petals in our hair and real joy in our hearts. I'd turned off my phone, wanting to focus entirely on my new husband and our future together. We were getting ready for bed, laughing about something silly when there was a pounding on the hotel room door. Marcus looked at me questioningly, and I shrugged, having no idea who it could be. He opened the door to find my parents standing there, disheveled and crying. Behind them stood Tyler, still in his baseball uniform, looking uncomfortable and young. Victoria, please, Mom sobbed. We need to talk to you. We had no idea. How could we have not known? The governor? State senators? Why didn't you tell us? I stood in the doorway in my honeymoon pajamas, Marcus's protective hand on my shoulder, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no vindication, no satisfaction. Just a hollow sense of finality. Why didn't I tell you? I repeated slowly. Mom, I've been trying to tell you about my life for 34 years. You were too busy watching Tyler's games to listen. That's not fair, Dad protested. We always supported you. Name one award I won in high school, I interrupted. Tell me what my college major was. Describe my job title without looking it up on your phone right now. The silence was deafening. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, staring at his cleats. You missed my high school graduation for Tyler's tournament, I continued, my voice steady and cold. You missed my college graduation because Tyler had a playoff game. You missed every single significant moment of my life because you were always somewhere else, cheering for him. And when I finally had the one day that should have been about me and Marcus, you chose Tyler's game again. You made your priorities very clear. We came, though, Mom said desperately. We're here now. You're 3 hours late to my wedding reception, I corrected. You came after you saw the guest list, after you realized I might actually be someone worth paying attention to. But here's the thing. I didn't achieve any of this for your attention or approval. I stopped needing that from you a long time ago. Victoria, please, Dad stepped forward. We made a mistake. We can fix this. We'll do better. You've had 34 years to do better. The fact that it took the governor of California showing up at my wedding to make you realize you might have overlooked something tells me everything I need to know about your capacity for change. Tyler finally spoke up, his voice cracking slightly. Vic, I'm sorry. I told them to skip the game, that your wedding was more important. They wouldn't listen. I looked at my little brother, the golden child who'd been given every advantage and somehow ended up living in our parents' basement at 27. Tyler, this isn't your fault. You didn't ask to be put on a pedestal. But Mom, Dad, you built your entire life around his sports career. Convince yourselves you were investing in his future. Look at where he is now. Look at where I am. Tell me honestly which one of your children needed your support more. The comparison was cruel but accurate. Tyler flinched, and I felt a pang of guilt. He'd been as much a victim of their favoritism as I had, just in a different way. They'd invested everything in his athletic ability and nothing in teaching him resilience, independence, or how to handle disappointment. I don't want your apologies, I said quietly. I don't want tearful reconciliation scenes or promises to change. I want you to go home, look at your choices over the past 3 decades, and sit with the reality that you sacrificed a relationship with one child because you were so obsessed with the other's small-town glory. And then I want you to leave me alone. Victoria, you can't mean that, Mom whispered. We're your parents. You were physically present in my childhood, I corrected. That's not the same as being parents. Being a parent means showing up, paying attention, making your children feel seen and valued. You did that for Tyler. You never did it for me. I raised myself while you raised him. And now I'm going to build a family that actually knows how to love and support each other. You're welcome to watch from the sidelines, just like I watched Tyler's games from the sidelines of your attention for 30 years. Maybe now you'll understand how that feels. Marcus gently closed the door before they could respond. Through the heavy wood, I heard Mom's broken sobbing, Dad's attempts to console her, Tyler's quiet. I told you guys this would happen. Marcus wrapped his arms around me, and I finally allowed myself to cry. Not from sadness or regret, but from relief. The weight I'd been carrying, the constant hoping they'd notice me, the never-ending effort to be good enough, impressive enough, worthy of their attention, suddenly lifted. I'm so proud of you, Marcus murmured into my hair. That took incredible strength. I feel terrible, I admitted. Tyler looked devastated. Tyler is an adult who can build his own relationship with you, separate from your parents, if he wants to. But Victoria, you can't set yourself on fire to keep them warm anymore. You've done enough. He was right. I had done enough. More than enough. The next morning, while Marcus was in the shower, my phone, which I'd finally turned back on, exploded with notifications. 53 missed calls, mostly from my parents, but also from various relatives. 87 text messages, and 1 voicemail from Tyler, left at 3:47 a.m. I listened to it on speaker, Marcus's damp head appearing around the bathroom door as Tyler's voice filled the hotel room. Hey Vic, it's me. I know you probably don't want to hear from any of us right now, and I get it. I really do. I wanted you to know that I won the game. We won the championship. The scouts were there, and you know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They said I'm too old, that I should have been scouted in college if I was going to make it professionally. Mom and Dad missed your wedding for a game that didn't matter, and I think I've known for a while that it wouldn't matter, that the dream they had for me was never going to happen. But they needed it so badly, you know? They needed me to be the star, and I let them down, just like they let you down. I'm sorry, Vic. I'm really sorry. Not just for today, but for all of it. For being the reason they never saw you. Call me when you're ready. Or don't. I'll understand. The message ended. Marcus sat beside me on the bed, processing what we'd just heard. He sounds broken, I said softly. He's realizing his worth was conditional, Marcus replied. Just like yours was. The difference is you built something real, something lasting, without their support. He's going to have to figure out who he is when he's not the golden child anymore. Over the next few weeks, the aftermath unfolded in predictable ways. Mom called repeatedly, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails about how she'd never meant to hurt me, how she hadn't realized I felt overlooked, how we needed to work this out as a family. Dad sent long text messages about the importance of forgiveness and not holding grudges. I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I sent a single message to Tyler. I don't blame you for their choices. When you're ready to build your own life, separate from their expectations, we can talk. His response came 3 days later. I moved out, got an apartment across town, started seeing a therapist. You were right about a lot of things. I'm sorry it took so long to see it. Aunt Linda became my intermediary, updating me occasionally on my parents' state of mind without pressuring me to reconcile. They're lost, she told me during coffee 6 weeks after the wedding. They built their entire identity around Tyler's baseball career, and now that's over. They don't know who they are. That's not my problem to solve, I replied, and I meant it. They had 3 decades to build a relationship with me based on who I actually am, not who they wanted me to be. They chose not to. I'm not going to fix their identity crisis for them. I know, Aunt Linda said gently. I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know that you breaking free has cracked something open in this family. Tyler's in therapy. Your mother's questioning everything she thought she knew about parenting. Your father's actually confronting his choices for the first time ever. It's not your responsibility, but your honesty created space for change. The change, when it came, was glacial and incomplete. Tyler found his footing slowly, taking online courses in sports management and starting to build a career separate from playing. He called occasionally, our conversations awkward but genuine. 2 siblings trying to forge a relationship without our parents' interference. Mom sent a letter 4 months after the wedding, 10 pages of single-spaced reflection on her failures as a parent. It was raw and honest and utterly devastating to read. She didn't make excuses, didn't blame stress or circumstances. She simply acknowledged in painful detail every moment she'd chosen Tyler over me. I see now what I did, she wrote. I can list every science fair I missed, every honor roll I dismissed, every achievement I treated as less important than Tyler's games. I thought I was helping him, pushing him toward success. I didn't realize I was teaching you that you weren't worth my attention. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see you now, and I'm devastated by how much I missed. I cried reading that letter, Marcus holding my hand, but I didn't respond. Seeing the truth wasn't the same as earning forgiveness. That would take time if it happened at all. Dad's approach was more practical. He started showing up at events related to my work, environmental policy hearings, fundraisers, panel discussions. He sat in the back, never approached me, just witnessed. After the 3rd time, I confronted him. What are you doing here? I asked bluntly, cornering him in the parking lot after a water conservation forum. Learning who my daughter is, he said simply. I should have done it 30 years ago. Better late than never, I suppose. It might be too late, I told him honestly. I know, but I'm going to show up anyway. Not for your forgiveness, just because you deserve to have a father who sees you. He kept his word. Over the next year, he attended every public event I was part of, never pressuring me for conversation, just consistently present in a way he'd never been before. It didn't erase the hurt, but it was something. Tyler and I developed a careful relationship. We met for coffee every few months, talking about his therapy revelations and my work challenges. He was genuinely interested now, asking detailed questions about environmental policy, admitting he'd never understood what I did before. I think they broke both of us, he said one afternoon, stirring his latte absently. They broke you by ignoring you. They broke me by never letting me fail, never teaching me resilience. We're both in therapy, trying to undo what they did. At least we're doing the work, I replied. That's more than they did. Are you ever going to talk to them again, he asked. Really talk, I mean. I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks I've said everything I needed to say. They know the truth now. What happens with that truth is their problem. 1.5 years after my wedding, I got a phone call from an unknown Sacramento number. I answered cautiously, surprised to hear Governor Chen's voice. Victoria, I'm calling with an opportunity. My senior policy advisor is stepping down. I'd like you to consider the position. You'd be working directly with my office on all major legislative priorities. It's a significant jump, but I've seen your work. You're ready. The position was everything I'd worked toward, a role that would amplify my impact exponentially. I accepted immediately, Marcus celebrating with champagne that night in our small apartment. You did this, he said, kissing me. Without them, despite them, because of your own brilliance and dedication. You built this. We built this, I corrected. You've supported every crazy work hour, every stressful deadline. You've been the family I needed. The promotion made local news, a small article in the Sacramento Bee about the governor's new senior policy advisor. My phone buzzed with congratulations from colleagues and friends. And then, inevitably, a text from my mother. I saw the news. I'm so proud of you. I wish I'd told you that more when it could have mattered. I stared at the message for a long time before responding simply, thank you. That night, Tyler called. Hey, so I have news. I got a job. Full-time position as assistant athletic director at a community college. It's not coaching exactly, but it's good. It's real. And I got it on my own merit, not because of mom and dad's connections or high school glory. The pride in his voice was unmistakable. He was finding himself, finally at 28. That's incredible, Tyler. I'm genuinely happy for you. Thanks, Vic. And listen, I know things are still weird with mom and dad, but would you maybe want to grab dinner sometime? Just us? No parents, no wedding drama. Just siblings trying to figure out how to be family. I agreed, surprising myself, because despite everything, despite the years of resentment and hurt, Tyler was also a victim of our parents' dysfunction. He hadn't asked to be the golden child any more than I'd asked to be overlooked. We met at a small Italian restaurant in Oakland, conversation stilted at first, but gradually relaxing. He told me about his therapy sessions, about confronting the pressure he'd felt to be exceptional at baseball, about the relief of finally being mediocre at something and learning that was okay. I told him about my work, really told him, explaining the complex negotiations and strategic thinking required to push environmental legislation through a divided legislature. His eyes widened as I described meetings with lobbyists, late-night phone calls with senators, the delicate balance of compromise and principle. I had no idea, he said finally. I mean, I knew you worked in policy, but I didn't understand what that actually meant. You're like, really important, Victoria. You're changing actual laws. I'm doing work that matters to me, I replied. That's all I ever wanted, to do something meaningful and to be seen for it. I see you now, he said quietly, for what it's worth. It was worth something. Not everything, but something. 2 years after my wedding, on a random Tuesday afternoon, my father showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant looked flustered when she buzzed me. Your father is here? He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important. I considered turning him away, but curiosity won. Send him in. Dad entered my office slowly, looking around at the framed commendations, the photos with elected officials, the evidence of a career he'd never bothered to learn about. He was grayer than I remembered, more stooped. This is impressive, he said finally, gesturing at the office. You've built something real here. Did you come here for small talk, or was there a purpose to this visit? I kept my voice professional, distant. I came to tell you that your mother and I are divorcing, he said bluntly. The marriage doesn't work without a shared project, and Tyler was our project. Now, he's building his own life, and we have to face that we don't actually know each other. Haven't for years. I absorbed this information without reaction. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? He asked, not unkindly. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm not sorry you're finally being honest with yourselves. He nodded, accepting that. I also came to tell you that I'm proud of you. I know I should have said it thousands of times before. I know saying it now doesn't erase anything. But watching you over the past 2 years, seeing the work you do, the respect you've earned. Victoria, you're extraordinary. You always were. I'm ashamed it took me this long to notice. Tears stung my eyes, catching me off guard. You missed my childhood, my adolescence, my entire 20s. You missed all of it because you were too focused on Tyler's batting average to see anything else. Do you have any idea how much that hurt? How lonely it was to achieve things and have no one care? I'm starting to understand, he said quietly. I've been attending a support group for parents who've lost relationships with their adult children. Hearing other people's stories, I recognize myself in the worst ones. The parents who were physically present but emotionally absent, who had favorites, who made their children feel invisible. I did that to you. I'm so deeply sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back my childhood, I said, my voice breaking. It doesn't give me the father I needed at my high school graduation, at my college graduation, at my wedding. You chose Tyler's games over every significant moment of my life, and now you want me to forgive you because you finally bothered to notice I exist. No, he said firmly. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm asking for the chance to be your father going forward. Not to erase the past, but to do better in the future. To actually show up, pay attention, be present. I understand if that's not enough. I understand if it's too late. I stared at him, this man who'd failed me so consistently for 3 decades, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly, but maybe the beginning of a possibility. I need time, I said finally, and I need to see sustained effort, not just words. Show up, consistently, for months, for years. Prove that this isn't just guilt talking, that you're actually capable of change. Then maybe we can start to rebuild something. He nodded, relief evident in his features. I can do that. I will do that. He left, and I sat in my office for a long time, staring out at the Sacramento skyline. Marcus called, sensing somehow that I needed him. My dad showed up, I told him. He's getting divorced. He apologized. He wants to try again. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Angry. Sad. Maybe a little hopeful. Is that stupid? It's not stupid. It's human. You get to want a relationship with your father, even after everything. Just protect yourself. Make him earn it. That's what I did. Over the next year, Dad showed up to everything. Work events, dinner invitations, even the housewarming party when Marcus and I finally bought a place in Oakland. He came alone, Mom having moved to Arizona after the divorce, starting her own therapy journey of confronting her failures. He asked questions about my work, really listened to the answers, learned the names of my colleagues. He sent cards on random days with notes about articles he'd read that made him think of me. He was trying, genuinely, to be present. Tyler and I grew closer too, our relationship deepening into genuine friendship. He was dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher named Sarah who had no interest in baseball and loved him for his kindness, not his athletic ability. I'm happy, he told me one day, and he sounded surprised by it, like really happy. Not because I'm achieving something or making someone proud, just content with my life. That's beautiful, I told him, meaning it. 3 years after my wedding, Mom reached out through Aunt Linda, asking if we could meet. I agreed, cautiously, to coffee in a neutral location. She looked different, softer, less polished, more real. The first thing she said was, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I see clearly now how much I damaged you, how much I prioritized the wrong things. Why? I asked bluntly. Why was Tyler always more important? She took a long breath. Because he needed me more, I thought. Or maybe because he made me feel needed in a way you never did. You were so independent, so capable. I told myself you didn't need me. But the truth is I was lazy. Parenting you required paying attention to subtle things, your academic achievements, your quiet ambitions. Parenting Tyler was loud and obvious. Games, trophies, visible success. It was easier to see, easier to celebrate. And I took the easy path. I failed you because I was too lazy and self-centered to do the hard work of really seeing you. Her honesty gutted me. I needed you, I whispered. I needed you so much. I learned not to need you because you were never there. I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm so deeply, profoundly sorry. We talked for 3 hours, the longest honest conversation we'd ever had. She didn't make excuses, didn't minimize the hurt. She simply acknowledged it all, sitting with the discomfort of her failures. Can I ask what changed? I said, finally. Why now? Why does it matter now when it didn't matter for 30 years? The wedding, she said simply. Seeing you with the governor, with all those important people who clearly respected you deeply. Realizing you'd built this entire impressive life that I knew nothing about. It shattered the story I'd been telling myself. That you were fine, that you didn't need me. You weren't fine. You were just surviving without me. And I'd missed everything. I'd missed knowing my daughter. You missed more than that, I said. You missed the chance to be proud of me before it was impressive to other people. You missed loving me for who I am rather than what I achieved. You're right, she agreed, and I can't undo that. But I'm here now if you'll let me be. Not as the mother I should have been, but as whoever you need me to be going forward. I didn't commit to anything that day, but I didn't close the door either. We started having coffee monthly, awkward conversations that gradually became more natural. She asked about my work, my marriage, my hopes. She shared her own therapy insights, her reckoning with who she'd been. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. There was too much damage, too many missed years, but it was something. A beginning, maybe, of a relationship based on who we actually were rather than the roles we'd been assigned. 5 years after my wedding, Marcus and I welcomed our daughter Elena. My parents met her in the hospital, both of them crying as they held their granddaughter. I'm going to do better with her, Mom whispered. I'm going to show up. You'll have to, I said firmly, because if you don't, you won't be part of her life at all. I won't let her feel what I felt. I understand, she said, and I believed she did. Dad has been true to his word, showing up consistently for 5 years now. He's earned a cautious place in my life, though the relationship will never be what it could have been. Mom's still a work in progress, our interactions careful and boundaried. Tyler is Elena's favorite uncle, showing up for babysitting duties and bringing Sarah to family dinners. He's worked hard to become someone separate from the golden child he was supposed to be, and I respect the hell out of that journey. The story went viral in a way I never expected when a colleague wrote about it for a policy blog, using it as an example of how women's professional achievements are often overlooked. The comments section exploded with people sharing their own stories of being the overlooked child, the one who succeeded despite rather than because of their family. You gave voice to something so many of us experienced, one commenter wrote. Thank you for being honest about the damage and the healing. I never wanted to be a cautionary tale or an inspiration. I just wanted to be seen. And now, finally, I am by my husband, by my daughter, by my colleagues, and yes, gradually by my family. Looking back now, I realize the wedding wasn't really about my parents missing the ceremony. It was about me finally understanding that I didn't need their presence or approval to have a meaningful, significant life. I'd built something real and important completely independent of their attention. And that validation, the governor of California at my wedding, the respect of my peers, the love of a partner who truly saw me, meant more than any delayed apology ever could. My parents missed my wedding for my brother's game. They showed up late and were shocked by who I'd become without their notice or support. They regretted it, genuinely. But their regret doesn't erase 30 years of being invisible in my own family. What it did do was free me to build the life and family I actually wanted. One based on mutual respect, genuine interest, and consistent presence. Elena will never wonder if she's important enough to show up for. Marcus will never question whether I see his value. And I will never again shrink myself to fit someone else's narrow perception of who I should be. The understanding daughter, the flexible one, the child who didn't need attention. That girl is gone. In her place is a woman who knows her worth, who demands to be seen, who builds meaningful relationships with people who show up, not perfectly because humans are flawed, but consistently because that's what love actually requires. Have you ever been the overlooked child in your family? The one whose achievements were minimized while a sibling was celebrated? How did you find your way to seeing your own value? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe for more honest conversations about family dynamics, professional success, and building the life you deserve. Thank you for reading my story. Remember, you are enough, exactly as you are, whether your family recognizes it or not. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is see yourself clearly and refuse to accept less than you deserve.